Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our 6th TIPi broadcast. They've all been quite a lot of fun so far. This one has a very ambitious title, The Way Forward for the Finance Industry. Possibly slightly ambitious. However, we have 3 very interesting, lovely people. Each have an angle on the subject. And on my other screen here, I'm looking at the front page of the Times that says that the bank predicts a V-shaped recovery from the virus, Britain rebounding sooner and faster than expected, chief economist says. So it's a timely moment that we come to this. And we've got 3 people on our panel. We've got Nicola Charles from Aviva, CMO of Aviva GI. We've got James Rowland, Digital Performance Director at Refinitiv. And we've got Mike Best, who is Head of Growth at TIPi Group. Let's start with you, Nikki, because I'm going to ask you what you've done in this lockdown, but quite extraordinary. You have started a new job. You've only just arrived at Aviva, so you must have left a job, which you did from Reviti, and moved here. So what was that like? Obviously, you didn't plan that. You didn't plan.
No. Yeah, it's been strange and kind of interesting. Yeah, so I left Reviti I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. We kind of went, oh, looks like we're going to have to work from home from now on. And I only had a month left in the business, so there was a chance that we weren't going to get back to the office. So unexpectedly packing up a desk, saying goodbye to people and leaving wasn't the leaving do I expected. Did have a wonderful Zoom call with all the team though, so that was great. And then arrived at Aviva on the 11th of May. All of my kit arrived the week before, so that was fantastic. Really well set up for working from home. But yeah, I've not yet met any of my team. Like everyone, I spend most days in Teams calls and have got to know everyone pretty well. But yeah, an unusual time, definitely.
So have you been through an induction process? How does that work?
Yeah. My first probably 3 weeks were a series of 30-minute calls with various people around the organisation, introducing myself to them and them to me, which was great. It was great, and it's weird because although I've missed the face-to-face contact, the fact that actually when you meet someone, you're sort of seeing into their home and seeing them in a more relaxed environment. So I've met people's children, people have met my dog, all those kind of things have happened. So in some ways it's been more personal than it would in an office.
Yeah, lovely. I just say to our viewers, all 3,000 of you, actually about 45, don't hesitate to type in questions so you can participate in that, type in the questions. So I've got the Zoom webinar chat open. So anything they want me to ask, I will as we go through or at the end. So presumably, Nikki, when they put the brief out for you, they had a set of tasks in mind, and now you've landed on Plan Aviva. Those tasks some of them have stayed, but many of them have gone out the window and certainly changed. How is it? What is different from what they told?
What I expected.
Would you like to come?
Yeah.
You need to do.
Well, I arrived in basically what was a crisis management situation. So, of course, there are thousands of call centre employees at Aviva, all of whom had to be converted to home working in, over the course of a week. And we've had, of course, all of the issues to deal with around travel insurance, business interruption, the change, I guess, in ebb and flow of motor as well. So, yeah, I arrived with we've just restructured, which is true. And we need to embed that structure and build our trading capability at Aviva, which was one of the reasons that I joined. We need to manage this crisis first and get through this period, and then understand what we think the world will look like afterwards. But still, at the same time, crack on and deliver those sort of challenging targets. So yeah, it's been interesting and a bit of a baptism of fire, really, because everything, of course, is running at 100 miles an hour, but equally, there are so many unknowns in the environment, both today and for the rest of the year and onwards, really, that we're obviously spending a lot of time looking at potential outcomes and trying to plan for those.
And how have consumers been changing their demands? I know there was this thing because we had insurance play earlier on in the series about, which is a minor point, but people claiming money back because they weren't using their car. But since that was a long time ago, what have consumers been? What are the people on the front line, working from home on the helplines facing at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, some of the early kind of noise has settled down. People have obviously, both consumers and staff really, have got used to the situation. So it's calmer now and more steady. What we've seen is, as you would expect, really, people more likely to use our digital channels for self-serve. We actually had the call centre open through the whole period. We didn't have to close down, but I think a customer's expectation was that they wouldn't be able to get through on the phone, and consequently they moved to self-serve. So naturally we're looking at how we can continue and grow that. And we're also seeing a slight shift in purchase behaviour. So we are seeing a slight uptick in customers going to price comparison for new car and home policies.
Interesting. So just going back to the people on the front line and people changing their role, do you think the way that they'll use office space and things, do you think many of them will just stay working from home much more, and you'll be able to reduce the amount of office space that you have?
Well, I think like most large organisations, Aviva have been looking for some time at how we can work more effectively and efficiently without some of these, without so many, I guess, properties. And whilst there has been some reticence to move towards working from home from some areas of the organisation, this has really just catapulted the thinking forward, because we have managed it effectively and efficiently. And for many of our employees, we do a weekly kind of pulse check on how people are feeling. For many of them, actually, they really prefer working in this way. They're really getting some value from it because of the time that they're able to spend with their families. So we're definitely not looking to go back to exactly how it was. We're now working through how we can adjust and change our office footprint, but also what we do when we're in the office, so that people have more opportunity to be flexible. But there are some people who do want to go back to the office 5 days a week, and we're looking at how we can accommodate that as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So as you start, you must be in the thick of planning how your brand emerges from this and starts to change or adapt its character and exploring its DNA to see where you can be, and should it be a brand with purpose, and what should it do? And just looking at agency selection is one of my things. I set up Voice to Catchers 15 years ago, and I see you're working with Adam and Eve, which is the number one above the line creative agency of the moment, possibly in the world. Great. And then Zenith, part of Publicis and Media. So what are you talking to them about the way that your brand and your voice and the impact, I suppose, that you'll make as a new marketing CMO to come out of this? Because it's frightening and exciting.
Yeah, I actually think it's really interesting, and we are in the thick of sessions with Adam and Eve about exactly that. How do we take things forward, and what do we think the brand needs to look like? So we've been busy with research, as you'd expect, but also with some creation and ideas of what we think we need to look like going forward. And I think it's not just about how the mood and perception may have changed, and what people's needs are and what they're expecting from brands, and particularly from some of the bigger brands. But I think it's also about when is the right time, and I think there is that, for me, that kind of awful swell of brands jumping on a bandwagon that we absolutely don't want to do that. So it's what's the right time then to think about being big again in brand, which we will be doing at some point later in the year, but also then what is our messaging? Because I think it's definitely dangerous to jump on the
we'll just be
warm and fuzzy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how you use your digital channels, because as you said, your customers have accelerated their digital savviness, and they're expecting that to be, and particularly in the insurance world, there's been a lot of online purchase and online, comms. So I imagine that would change. Is that right?
I mean, I'm lucky. I joined a business that has invested heavily in digital over the last 5 or 6 years, and consequently our assets at Aviva are in many respects market leading. So I'm lucky in that respect. But yeah, absolutely, we are now undertaking a process of kind of really going through all of those assets and understanding exactly how customers are using them today and how we think they might be using them in the future. So we're focusing on the right areas for investment over the next few years. So not necessarily, big fanfare investment, but the small things that are actually really important to customers when they come to us.
Yeah, really interesting. Thank you, Nick. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
And yeah, really fascinating. Now, come on, you viewers. I want a few questions to come in. No pressure, don't mind, because we're quite happy here in our own little world. We can't see you. But I'm going to go on to James now. James, so Refinitiv sells data. And honestly, my heart sank when I said I'd had to interview you about data. I thought, how is this going to go? But meeting you yesterday, the data that you collect and distribute is quite extraordinary. So I'd just like you to tell our listeners where you started previously, what Refinitiv was before it became Refinitiv, the sort of data that you have and collect and what you do with it.
Yeah, so Refinitiv was born from Thomson Reuters, which was a business that did news and data. We were the financial and risk part of that business, so about 50% of that business. About 2 years ago, then Blackstone Group came in, bought us for 20 billion, took us away from Thomson Reuters. So the financial and risk business became Refinitiv. And now, currently, we've been bought out again by London Stock Exchange for 27 billion, and we're waiting for that to close over the next 6 months. So in essence, we have lots of data, and all this data is used by big institutions and small to medium enterprises. We have data across finance points, data across risk points, basic data for anything to do with trading, stock markets, etc. And at this moment in time with COVID running, it's very important to have this data in one place that people have access to, so they can prepare for the future, they can prepare for the present as well, which is unnerving for some companies. And we have data going back decades. So we have trends, we have series, we have everything for them essentially. So we provide software packages in subscription. And our biggest competitor of note, I guess, is Bloomberg. And I'm sure many people here are aware of Bloomberg. So we're trying to eat into that share of the market, which is quite heavy, as you can imagine.
What are the more sort of peculiar sets of data that you collect? Just for a little bit of entertainment, just to bring it.
Yeah, so I mean, at this moment in time, we can see all the shipping info across the world. So if you go into our biggest tool, which is called Icon, you can actually see the ships traveling across the ocean right now, be it with oil, be it with other commodities. We can see different transactions and deals going on throughout the world. And then we have also info on a lot of companies and people to help with anti-money laundering, especially helping governments on that side.
Fantastic. So that's what we spoke about yesterday. I went, whoa, that's right. So data shifts and things that are areas of buckets of your, I imagine they fit into portfolios that have emerged of real hunger for data during this period. What sort of things have been, oh my goodness, I wouldn't expect that, or that's interesting, that's a big growth area for us?
Yeah, so I mean, sustainability is huge for us. And if you go to our homepage, refinitiv.com, you'll see that we talk quite a lot about sustainability. More so within something called ESG, environmental, social, and economic governance. That's absolutely huge at the moment. So if we look at the effects of COVID-19 right now, we can see that, number one, the first thing people will say is pollution. Pollution is down. The environment looks great. And we had built our ESG offering a couple of years back, and we're in the right position for it right now to take market share. But essentially, sustainability is huge. We see Tesla. Tesla at the moment has overtaken Exxon. It's a complete shift. It's a company that is renewable versus old school fossil fuel. So that's absolutely huge. And then speaking of fossil fuels, I mean, the oil price war at the moment is huge. And we can see, and I know my local Sainsbury's, I'm having a great time with the 99.9 cent a litre petrol I have. But there are other implications of that across the world. And surely we'll see more of that as we come out of this dip.
And what are you seeing happening in America at the moment? I mean, it's a hotspot of all sorts of political COVID data, where that's the sort of thing that, well, many of us look at high on our news feeds about what's happening. Presumably that's a big issue for you and things you're following.
Yeah, I mean, we're a global company. We do our marketing across 190 countries and 70 languages. So America is a part of that, and we do notice things happening there at the moment. But we have to keep our eye on the ball and look at every country. I mean, this started off over in China. We're now seeing China bounce back. Europe is looking pretty healthy for us, and America's looking good too. Obviously, not as good as we would have thought in 2020, but a lot of what we have to do is prepare for 2021 and have a bigger oomph when we hit.
But one of the things you're saying to me is that interesting that how America's fluctuated hugely, China has, but Europe actually hasn't fluctuated so much during this period as a group.
Yeah, it's not that it hasn't fluctuated, but we have seen good amounts of sales coming in. We have seen great amounts of conversation. We have our main office in the UK, which helps, but it is, in general, Europe is looking quite reasonably good for us.
And how do you use digital marketing? And how do you use digital marketing? What's the role of it for you?
Oh, digital marketing. For us, it's huge in this company. And it's one of the reasons I joined. I joined 4 years ago. And I remember in my interview, they spoke about SEO. They spoke about SEO in such a way that I would have only heard from agencies. And I really liked that. Previously, when I went into in-house roles in SEO, I'd have to go in and explain what SEO is to everyone. But here, it's one of those companies that really understands the value of it. And more so now at the moment, we're doubling down on our SEO strategy. We're building lots more content so we can hit the ground running further in 2021. So SEO, my first love, what I first started.
See how your voice went up 2 octaves. Start talking about SEO. Tell us some of an initiative that you're working on at the moment that you are particularly excited about.
Yeah, so I mean, SEO, of course, but I'm digital performance, so I take care of everything performance-wise for our online marketing. Obviously, at the moment, we've a little bit more time to work on projects that we see are core to next year. And one of the big ones for me is attribution modeling. I mean, every company talks about doing attribution modeling, and there's no perfect attribution model out there, and there's out-of-the-box solutions from Google and Adobe, etc. But I'm actually really proud of what we're doing as a company here. We're drilling down into the data. We're not just looking at the online side. We're looking at how offline and brand affects everything within the model. And we're getting to a very strong position. And for me, this is the first time I'll see a true attribution model built from ground up. And it's, hopefully it'll be a case study someday and we can be up on stage talking about it.
That sounds great. And just finally from you, how will your role and tasks and objectives in life be changing as you come out of this?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely I can see there's more focus on digital. As I mentioned yesterday, I think pivot is the wrong word to use for digital. We're kind of always on the break of new technology anyways, and we're always looking for something new because we know that something like Twitter may be gone tomorrow. We have to look at the next platform. So pivot is probably too strong a word for digital marketing. But we're in a prime position, I think. We're, as I mentioned, with the attribution model, we think we're advanced. I mean, we might speak to people on the phone right now who are more advanced, and we may look foolish, but we think we're pretty advanced. So we're not pivoting too much. We're just doing what we were doing before, but at a higher standard.
And are you working with TIPi? I think you might be doing something. I think, you know.
Yeah. So we've worked with TIPi quite a lot. We've done our site rebuild with them. We've done SEO projects as well, and now we're currently working on voice search. Because we're a company that have all the data, we want to be seen everywhere as, you know, as strong as possible. And voice search is such a, you know, it's such a fun piece of tech at the moment. And coming from my SEO background, I know how easy it is to do at the moment, because not all companies are invested in voice. So it's a real area that you can see traction really quickly on. So yeah, we're working with John Campbell and Rabbit and Pork at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting project. And when you send an email around to the company, everyone is really excited to see something like that. Especially working from home now, and they can speak to their Alexa and ask who is Refinitiv. So it's just a nice little bonus point to have.
So would I be able to take an example? Number of ships trading, or number of ships arriving in Shanghai now. In the future, also, would I be able to access that by voice?
In the future, yeah. At the moment, not so much, because we had to explain what Refinitiv was first, which is, you know, pretty much a new brand on the grand scheme of things.
So, the reason for asking that is the potential with voice.
Oh, the potential, yeah. The potential is
questions
big
that you can answer.
Yeah, the potential is big, and we use Google data set search as well, and we've only started uploading our stuff there. And I mean, if you jump in there and take one of our data points, that's probably a good place to start to see how much data we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's lovely to meet someone who's so passionate about their data and can put into colour about it. I love the way that your voice went up 3 octaves when I moved to SEO. So back to you. I don't think I still haven't got any questions for our audience, but that's absolutely fine, no worries. So we're going to go to Mike Best, who is head of growth. Now, Mike, last time I saw you in the flesh, you were slightly over 6 foot. So as a head of growth, how much have you grown since?
Not much more from there, but fortunately I need to direct my day-to-day towards clients and new business, so hopefully I'm able to grow a little bit more there.
So with that hat on, Mike, what are clients asking for that has changed now? What sort of things are the challenges that you're being asked as a group to be able to help with?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's one that's changed dramatically over the last 4 months. Obviously, as we went into lockdown and the pandemic began, there were a different set of questions being asked to the ones now. They were more immediate, they were more short-term focused. I think that's when the word pivot became firmly stuck in everybody's vernacular. And I think at that point, several things were happening. A lot of, to be frank, I think paid media we were asked to review whether we were either on and our accounts were live, or whether we wanted to pull back budgets. Those were kind of some of the more short-term efforts that we were making to help our clients try and be as flexible as possible. But as well as those immediate actions, we were also being asked, what next? What can I do? If my paid media isn't running, then what other activities can we do to embrace the obvious value that digital delivers? And so I think at that stage, the early stages, we were doing a lot of listening, not quite with the same levels of data that James has at his fingertips, but we were looking at search insights, we were looking at social conversations, any source really that gave us clues for what the consumers wanted. And what competitors were doing in that space to evolve their offering, their value proposition, and start to think about what the future holds to them. And then we gradually, over the last 4 months, we've increasingly looked at more long-term view of things. So I guess where short-term view maybe about agility and the ability to change very quickly, we were starting to have conversations with brands about how they can be more resilient, and able to, over a longer period of time, actually navigate big change more effectively than they may have done right now.
Great. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So trends, digital trends coming out of where we are. We can see customer help, working from home, people using chat things much more. The role of SEO in voice, exciting areas of that. All consumers becoming much more digital, the whole digital piece accelerating.
Yes.
I was speaking to Mark Reed yesterday, Chief Executive of WPP, who was saying, he'd put JWT and Wonderman together and completely changed the balance of his marketing agencies. He hadn't seen COVID coming, obviously he didn't plan it, but it has accelerated his strategy enormously. And I think that's what we'll all be seeing is a much greater shift towards digital products, services.
Yeah.
I wonder, we still haven't got any questions, so we're just going to have a little chat. Here we go. We've got one from Charlotte Gross, all panels. I imagine your strategies had to evolve at a rapid pace during the start of COVID, indeed. Have you seen this start to settle slightly down, and are you able now to plan for the future? I suspect the answer is yes, but it's slightly different in all. So let's just whiz round. Thank you very much, Charlotte, for that. Nikki.
So I wasn't at Aviva at the start of COVID, but was there quite early. And yeah, everything accelerated. Everything moved at 100 miles an hour to just get going and get sorted. But really, just to help, we had to deal with the regulators. We had to deal with getting everybody able to work from home, and we had to deal with making sure that our customers were able to reach us, particularly at the time, our travel insurance customers. So we moved forward quite quickly in terms of, I think, communication capability during that period of time, which has impacted on our strategic thinking going forward, but in a positive way, because it's accelerated our thinking, it's accelerated our listening really to customers. So yeah, I think now we're in a period where we are, it's not BAU, of course, because we're all working in a very different way and we're all looking at the world through a slightly different lens, but we have certainly moved back into a more, I guess, normal cadence in terms of looking at strategy and working on strategy going forward. So yeah, we had a period of frantic activity and adjustment in terms of strategy, and now we're moving that through. So we are adapting our strategies, definitely, and we are reviewing our strategies for, we kind of look 5 years out, but for the next 5 years, based on an ever-changing and ever-learning environment. So yeah, it's actually been really interesting time to think strategically while everything is moving around you.
Yeah. And James, when you're sort of repackaging, the way you sell your products, has that changed in terms of strategically thinking?
Yeah, so I guess a big part of our marketing are events and meeting people. You don't do big deals without shaking hands and having big conversations. So I will say the very first month of working from home was crazily busy. For a company like us, you do a lot of planning for the financial year. That finished in Q4, and then to reforecast in Q2 for the rest of the year brought a lot of challenges with it. What I will say though, the age-old thing, marketing, having conversations with the sales organization, that has really took on a new lease of life. And we're doing greater partnerships now, because we know that some ways of marketing that used to work in the past don't quite work at the moment. And we have to knuckle down and be more personalized with our content and more personalized with our targeting as well. And that's a great way of sharing data between people who are on the front line speaking to customers and prospects, and us who group people together into buckets based on what we see on website or analytics packages that we have, and to bring them both together then to do even more personalized, targeted marketing. To be fair, it's exciting for us. We get access to new data points, and we're a company that loves data, of course.
Yeah. Really, really good. So, funny enough, we've got a question from His Royal Highness Ollie Bishop here, and as soon as I saw that headline, and I partly said it to jazz him up, the bank predicts V-shaped recovery from virus. He's come on. The Bank of England have mentioned the V-shaped recovery starting to take shape. Do the panelists believe this will come to fruition? And if so, will budgets for 2021 be larger than normal? Nikki.
That's a leading question from Ollie. So I guess,
but no surprise, frankly.
But no surprise. Yeah. So, I mean, the when you're in the market in a general insurance environment, a vast number, car insurance is mandatory. So the demand for it doesn't change. What may change is the way people shop for it, and they're also, I think what will be interesting will be that what also may change may be the growth of some of the current challengers who offer more tailored cover. So I think we're all going to have to get smarter at that. But from a pure marketing context, then we weren't really imagining a real dip, to be honest with you, because people still need to buy their car insurance, and we still want to be top of mind for that. For us, the bigger challenge will be in travel insurance and what happens in that world going forward, not just because of demand, but also because of the type of cover that we're able to offer. So there's a tricky tightrope to walk there. But at this moment in time, when I'm looking at my planning for next year, and I'm working through, okay, what do I think my budget needs to be? Because that is exactly the process that I'll be going through over the next couple of months. I'm certainly not today sitting in a position where I'm expecting that need to drop significantly next year. Do I think it will be a bigger budget? I don't know. Jury's out, but I certainly don't necessarily see a slump.
Thank you. Interesting. One of the previous insurance thing we had to say was about sort of new initiatives and products and flexible insurance policies where you could actually, only when you were using that particular service were you paying for it, and and
you could see that could be really attractive now for people who are working from home more, not using their car as much, traveling less. For all of those products, you can really see the potential for that going forward. But I don't know. It still has to, consumers have to really take it up for it to grow. So there are plenty of products out there like that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them.
Yeah. And Refinitiv, it's a huge success story. So you're on a massive growth roll. I don't quite know what your marketing expenditure is and how big a pot it is, but are you planning to keep that growing in line with growth?
Look, it'd be difficult for me to answer that, but I will say that we always have growth markets. And if we look at South America in particular, and then China, they have always been markets we want to break into, regardless of COVID. So there are areas for us to achieve growth. And if we want to achieve growth, we need to spend against it. I guess if Ollie wants to know if it's going to be a V-shaped recovery, he can leave his information on our form and sign up to Icon.
Great.
And figure out.
Well done, James. Good turnaround.
Great answer. What do you think, Mike?
On a market level, it's going to be interesting. We talked about resilience earlier on, and what is clear is the markets that will be most resilient, the ones that enable or encourage consumer spending to be as stable as possible. But then again, to answer that question for a whole market, you need to look into individual sectors, because a industry that was described as resilient before, the air industry, the aerospace industry, albeit it's been through some turbulent times in the last 10 years, it has shown that as long as consumers are still willing to travel, they can recover very quickly. But as we heard from Airbus yesterday, and other players in the market over the last week, they're expecting this to be a problem right up until 2022 and beyond. So to say for that industry whether it's going to recover in 2021 is somewhat doubtful. But then again, on a market level, I think the UK and certainly some of Europe will be able to weather this and rebound into 2021.
As a V-shape, I know that here I'm down in the southwest of France waiting for our families to sort of be able to come out here, and Ryanair opened their ticket sales this morning. And it'd be interesting as a social indicator to see whether there's a rush for that and everyone goes, get out of here, let's go. We know we've been locked up for long enough, or everyone's going, whoa, nice idea, but not quite ready for that. I think those that opened up over their sales over the weekend did see a rush. Yeah.
So I suspect Ryanair will see the same.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good luck, Nikki, with your job.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll make a huge success of it. James, it's always lovely to meet someone who turns data into exciting stories, and great. And our Chief Growth Officer, growing in his stride and confidence all the time. Thank you very much, Mike. So thank you for all those listening, and we'll look forward to the next one. Not sure what the subject is, can't quite remember, but we're brav. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thanks.